This is my mama's makeup and crochet channel.
Hi, welcome back to my channel. This video is a tutorial for this crochet turtleneck poncho, and it's called the KASTIEL poncho. This is a beginner-friendly crochet project with basic stitches used and is just one whole piece. We don't have to make separate different parts to connect together to form the poncho. It's just one whole piece done from the top to the bottom. So we will start here on the collar, and we will do this ribbing design in continuous rounds. Okay, so continuous rounds here on the turtleneck part of the poncho. That's from the top going down. So after the collar, we will go straight to the body and just continue down to the bottom, then finish off with a simple border. This is a made-to-measure design, so the length or size of the poncho and how big you want this opening to be should be based on your own measurements. So for the collar, you have to measure your head circumference, or if it's a gift for someone, you may just Google a head circumference chart to use as a guide. What's important is that the wearer can comfortably get their head through the collar. And you may make the collar shorter. You don't have to make it this tall, so it's up to you, whatever style you like. The number of rows for the collar will depend on how tall you want it to be. We just have to make sure that for the collar, we will make it a multiple of 6 for our foundation chain. But the circumference and the number of rows will be your choice. And for the body, same thing. You can make it longer or shorter than this. For this one, on the side right here, it's only down to my elbow. I ran out of yarn already, but I think it's still a good size. I made some ponchos like this before that goes way below the elbow as requested by the person who commissioned them. And here on the front of the poncho is one of the two corners. Okay, so this right here, and the other corner goes to the back. Okay, so this goes down to my waist. Actually, I guess way below my waistline. And you may also wear this poncho with the corners on the sides just like this. Like I've mentioned earlier, this is a beginner-friendly crochet project. We will only be using simple stitches repeatedly throughout the tutorial. So just chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, back post double crochet, and front post double crochet. And I will of course try my best to show each step clearly. Also, you don't have to worry about the gauge here. You may simply adjust the number of stitches and rows based on your measurements. You may use any yarn weight, and of course your hook sizes should be based on your yarn. We will be using 2 hook sizes, by the way, and I will show you the reason for that later. Okay, so let's start. So here are the things that we will need. Of course, we need our yarn. So for this project, I'm gonna be using Peach Perfect from Ashley's Crochet. So 2 cakes, they're both Peach Perfect, and each cake is approximately 200 grams. This is 8-ply fine cotton yarn, fingering weight. Okay, and for this poncho, I want to use a thicker yarn, so I will be using 2 strands. So 2 pulls, 1 pull from each cake. And combining the 2, I think that will make it into a light worsted weight yarn. So this is now a 16-ply fine cotton yarn, which is the same type and weight of yarn that I used with the other KASTIEL ponchos that I already made. I've been looking for a yarn in my storage that is similar to the Pantone color of the year for 2024, which is Peach Fuzz. And this is the closest that I have to that color, and I'm happy with this. So this is what I'm gonna be using for this tutorial. So in summary, with these 2 cakes of yarn that I'm using, just to give you a guide, what I have here is approximately 400 grams of light worsted weight yarn. And for our crochet hooks, like I've mentioned earlier, I will be using 2 different sizes. I have here Tulip Etimo crochet hooks. This is the bigger size, 4.5 millimeters, and this other one is one size smaller than the first one. This is 4 millimeters. So I will be using both for this project, and I will show you later when to use them. We also have a yarn needle, scissors, and a measuring tape. We will be working in continuous rounds, so we need a stitch marker, but if you don't have any, you may use just any piece of yarn for that job. And let me tell you why we are going to work in continuous rounds. So this is one of the first KASTIEL ponchos that I've made, and here is the start of each round. You can't really see the seams here, the start of each round here on the correct side of the poncho, but I think you can still see that there's a little difference in the ribbing here. Again, this is the right side or the front of the poncho, but on the inside or the wrong side of the poncho, this is where you can really see the seams, where the start and end of each round are connected. So on the correct side, it doesn't really show, especially if we fold our turtleneck collar inwards like this. But when we fold the collar outwards, like most people do with turtlenecks, that's when this part right here is quite obvious, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. As you can see, this wide gap right here and this bulkier line, they're quite different from the rest of the ribbing pattern. Okay, so this line here, it's obvious that it's different from the others, and that's the connection between the end and start of each round. And this gap right here, that's a bit wider than the other ones. I actually improved that part a little in my more recent work. Let me show you. On the correct side of our work, the seam's not really obvious, but when we turn our work over like this, that's when we can clearly see the start of each round. Okay, but with this gap that I'm so conscious about, it's not as wide as before. It's almost the same with the rest of the pattern. Okay, so let's compare it to this other one. As you can see, this gap right here is a little bit wider. And like I said, I changed something to improve it a bit, but still this seam right here is really obvious, and that's what I don't want to have for this tutorial. That's why we'll be working in continuous rounds this time. Okay, let's start with the foundation chain. I already measured my head circumference and it's approximately 53 centimeters, so I will be making a foundation chain of at least maybe 56 or 57 centimeters just to have enough allowance, so putting on and taking off the poncho will be comfortable. Before you begin your foundation chain, make sure to leave a tail long enough for weaving in later. As mentioned, we need multiple of 6 stitches, so I will be making a foundation chain that's multiple of 6 until I reach 56 or 57 centimeters. And for this, for the foundation chain, I will be using the bigger hook first. Also, just a tip, and you may do this as well with your other crochet projects that require a foundation chain. If you have noticed that sometimes your work curves in the middle whenever you have a foundation chain, and as you make more rows, the edges start to grow outward or wider. It's because your foundation chain is tighter than the other stitches. So to avoid this tension problem, I always use a bigger hook size for the foundation chain. Then I will just go back to my regular hook size for the rest of the project. Anyway, for the first 15 rows of this collar, I will be using the 4mm crochet hook. That's why for the foundation chain, I'm using this 4.5mm crochet hook first, which is one size bigger. Okay, so let's continue working on this. I'll see you in a bit. I'm done with my foundation chain, which has to be 56 or 57 centimeters long. Remember, it should be a multiple of 6, and I have here 96 chains for approximately, let's see, 57 centimeters. Again, my head circumference is 53 centimeters, and I just added a little allowance. And now we are going to join the end and the start of our foundation chain together with a slip stitch. Okay, and I will also be using the smaller hook size now, which is the 4mm crochet hook. Because remember, I just used the bigger size earlier just so the foundation chain would not be too tight. Again, you have to make sure that your foundation chain is a multiple of 6. And before we join this last stitch to the first one on this chain, we also have to make sure that the chain is not twisted. Okay, so now we are going to slip stitch into that first chain, that one right there. Okay, so slip stitch, and don't be confused on this part. Okay, so that is our slip stitch. Let me just pull this up a little to show you. So this one is the last chain. Okay, that's the last stitch for our foundation chain, and this right here behind that slip stitch is the very first stitch. Okay, so don't get confused about that, because sometimes I still do, and then I would have an extra stitch that I would only notice after the round ends, and then I would have to start over. Okay, so we chain 1, and that chain would count as the first stitch for round 1. So we are now on round 1. Okay, and again, this is the last stitch of the foundation chain. So just to be sure, I will put a stitch marker right there so I would know. Just like that. So again, this chain right here on top of that first chain of our foundation chain counts as a stitch. Okay, and then on the next stitch, we will make a half double crochet, but I won't be doing that here on these loops, okay? Instead, I will be working on the back bumps of the foundation chain. So this is the front of the foundation chain, right? And then there are those loops or bumps on the back right there. I'm gonna be working on those instead. So for round 1, 1 half double crochet into each of these chains. So I'm going to crochet into those bumps on the back, but if you want to do it on these loops, that's fine as well. Okay, so into that next stitch, the second chain of the foundation chain, we will make a half double crochet. Okay, and into the next one as well. So yarn over, insert hook into that loop, grab yarn and pull up a loop, grab yarn and pull through all loops on the hook. So that's a half double crochet. So round 1 is just 1 half double crochet into each stitch around. So half double crochet into that one, and half double crochet as well into the next. And again, as you can see, I'm working into those back bumps of the foundation chain. Okay, let's make a half double crochet a little slowly this time. So yarn over, insert hook into that loop, and yarn over, insert hook into that loop, grab yarn, okay, and pull up a loop, grab yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So that's a half double crochet. Again, it's just 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. And at the end of this round, we should still have the same number of stitches as the foundation chain, which is a multiple of 6. And that's including this chain 1 right here on top of that first stitch where we did the slip stitch, because that counts as the first stitch for round 1. And the last stitch should be on this stitch here, which is also the last stitch for the foundation chain. So let's continue, and I'll see you at the end of this round. And we are almost at the end of round 1, just 2 stitches remaining. Okay, so let's remove this stitch marker and finish this round. So half double crochet into this stitch. I'm still working into that back bump on the foundation chain. And up next is our last stitch for this round. And just a reminder, after this round, we should still have the same number of stitches as the foundation chain. So you may double check if you want. Okay, we are done with round 1 and we are ready to begin round 2. Remember, I mentioned earlier that we will be working in continuous rounds, so I won't be slip stitching into that first stitch to close the round, but I will make a single crochet instead. So single crochet into that chain, which is the first stitch of round 1. And this single crochet counts as the first stitch for round 2. Let's put a stitch marker on that first stitch of the round. Okay, and let's continue. Into that second stitch, this one right here, which is a half double crochet, we will be making a front post double crochet. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. So we will do that around that post right there. So it's like a regular double crochet, but we will do that around that post. So yarn over, and then we insert our hook into this side right here and to the back, and then out of the front on the other side. Okay, so we will be working around that vertical post right there, and we will complete this stitch the same way we normally do a double crochet. So grab yarn and pull up a loop, grab yarn and pull through 2 loops on the hook, and grab yarn and pull through 2 loops on the hook. Okay, so just like a regular double crochet, but worked around that post instead of on top of the stitch. And into that next stitch, we will be making a back post double crochet. So it's just the opposite or the reverse of this front post double crochet. So we will be making a double crochet around that post also, but not going through that gap from the front, but instead from the back through that gap and around the front, then through that gap right there, and then to the back. And the hook should look like this on the back, and on the front it should look like this. Okay, and we will work our double crochet around that post on the back. Okay, so let's complete our double crochet like we normally would. Okay, and that is a back post double crochet. So here on the front post double crochet, as you can see, it's already giving you that ribbing effect, right? And as we continue making more rounds, the ribbing design will be more obvious. And it should be the same here on the back as well. Okay, so let's continue. On the next stitch, we will make a front post double crochet. So again, hook through that gap on the side, around the back, and out the front. So we will be working again around that post, and our hook should look like this. And we will be working and completing our double crochet around that front post like we normally would. Okay, so grab yarn, pull up a loop, grab yarn and pull through 2 loops on the hook, grab yarn and pull through 2 loops on the hook. And again, that's a front post double crochet. And into that next stitch, we will be making a back post double crochet. So again, insert hook from the back, through that gap and around the front, then through that gap right there on the side. Okay, and to the back. Okay, and our hook should look like this on the back. Okay, and then we will be working around that post. So complete the double crochet around that post, and that is again a back post double crochet. And I know that right now you can already see the pattern, so it's just alternating front post and back post double crochet for round 2. So again, into that next stitch, a front post double crochet, and into the next one, back post double crochet. Okay, so let's make another back post double crochet. So again, we will work around this post on the back right there. So our hook should look like this on the front and like this on the back. Okay, so complete the double crochet like a regular double crochet. Okay, so again, that is the pattern that we will repeat throughout this round. So it's just alternating front post double crochet and back post double crochet. I actually like this pattern. I find it to be relaxing, alternating between front post double crochets and back post double crochets. Anyway, let me do a few more stitches on camera. So after a back post double crochet, of course, a front post double crochet this time. And the next is a back post double crochet. Okay. Oops. So again, this is the pattern for round 2, just alternating back post and front post double crochets. Okay, so let's continue working until we reach this last stitch right here, and I'll see you there. I'm back with 2 stitches left for round 2. So let's continue. After this front post double crochet, I would be doing a back post double crochet, of course. So there is our back post double crochet, and this last stitch right here should be a front post double crochet. Okay, and it should also be the same with you. Your last stitch should be a front post double crochet. If it's not, maybe there's a mistake somewhere there in the round. Okay, so you have to double check. So again, our last stitch should be a front post double crochet. Okay, because if you check again, this stitch right here with the marker is the first stitch for round 2, right? So the next stitch is the second one, which is a front post double crochet, and the third one is a back post double crochet. Then it's just alternating back and front post double crochets throughout the round. So all the odd number stitches are back post double crochets, and all the even number stitches are front post double crochets. And the last stitch, of course, is an even number because we have an even number of stitches for the entire round. Remember, multiple of 6, right? And it's just right that our last stitch is a front post double crochet, because after that we will move on to the next round and we will start with a back post double crochet. Okay, so let's continue. We are now on round 3. Again, we are working in continuous rounds, so I will go ahead and make a back post double crochet around that first stitch from round 2. Okay, if you remember, that one is a single crochet. Okay, so we'll just make a back post double crochet. So we yarn over, and from the back, insert hook into that gap right there, and then around that post, and into that gap on the side and out of the back. Okay, and then we will finish this stitch as we normally complete a regular double crochet. Okay, so that's our first stitch for round 3. Okay, so let's put a stitch marker on that one. And up next is the same pattern as round 2. So our second stitch right here will be a front post double crochet. Okay, so it's a front post double crochet around that also front post double crochet from the previous round. Next, we will be working a back post double crochet around that back post double crochet as well. So the pattern for round 3 is also just alternating back post double crochets and front post double crochets all the way around. Take note that since we're doing the same pattern as round 2, whenever we make a front post double crochet like this, we are doing that around a front post double crochet also from the previous round. So same thing with the back post double crochet like this one. We are doing that around a back post double crochet as well from round 2. So all your front post double crochets on this round should be around the front post double crochets also from the previous round, and all the back post double crochets should be around the back post double crochets also from round 2. And that's how we form the ribbing pattern for the collar. And a little break here, just in case you're wondering why we did half double crochets on round 1 instead of double crochets like the rest. Let me show you this. So with my previous works, the other turtleneck ponchos I made before this tutorial, I used to always do double crochets on round 1, but this is what the top of the collar looks like. So there are those big holes or spaces, and I just wanted to not have them anymore. So doing just half double crochets instead of double crochets on round 1 did the trick. So that's what we did in this tutorial. Anyway, let's continue working. Again, the pattern for round 3 is just alternating back post and front post double crochets. Okay, so let's continue, and I'll see you at the end of this round. We are now almost done with round 3. So we only have a few stitches left to make. So let's continue. We just did a back post double crochet here. So of course, next will be a front post double crochet, and then back post double crochet after that. Okay, and as always, our last stitch will be a front post double crochet, which is just right because right after that is the first stitch of the next round, which is always a back post double crochet. Okay, so remember, the first stitch of each round is always a back post double crochet, and the last stitch is always a front post double crochet. Okay, so this is the end of round 3, and then we will begin round 4. And from round 4 onwards, so starting round 4 and for all the following rounds on the collar, the pattern will just be a repeat of the round 3 pattern. Okay, so let's begin round 4. And again, we are working in continuous rounds. Okay, so for the first stitch, we will be making a back post double crochet around that first stitch of the previous round, which is also a back post double crochet. Okay, and I know that by now we already know how to make a back post double crochet. So right there, that's our first stitch. Don't forget to put your marker. Okay, but just in case you forget to put your marker on, which sometimes I do, don't worry, because we have this tail right here that also works as a marker. So wherever that tail is, that is the first stitch. Okay, so just trace that line right there, so you will be able to find the first stitch of the round. So again, that's our first stitch, which is a back post double crochet, and the next one will be a front post double crochet, of course, around that double crochet as well from the previous round. And then next is a back post double crochet around that back post double crochet of round 3. Okay, so again, the pattern is just alternating back post and front post double crochets all the way around. So we will continue working this pattern until we reach the end of round 4. And once we reach this part, when we're done with round 4, it's time to begin the same pattern all over again. So we will continue making more rounds until we reach the size we want for the collar. And for each round, we will just repeat the round 3 pattern, which is alternating back posts and front post double crochets all the way around. And to give you a guide on the height or the size of the collar, let me show you mine. So for my collar, and again, it's up to you how tall you want the collar to be, but for mine, this is approximately 17 centimeters. And here you might notice that from this part, the collar gradually grows bigger or wider. I did not make any increase in stitches. I just used a bigger hook starting here at this point. This is approximately 10 centimeters. So for 10 centimeters, starting from round 1, I've been using the smaller hook size, which is 4 millimeters. Then after I reached 10 centimeters, I switched to a bigger hook size, which is 4.5 millimeters. For this one, 10 centimeters is 15 rounds. But of course, the number of rounds might be different for you depending on your yarn, hook size, or tension. And from this point onwards, the remaining 7 centimeters of the collar where the bigger hook is used, there are 10 rounds here. And again, the number of rounds for your remaining 7 centimeters might be different from mine. So to summarize, this collar is 17 centimeters tall. The first 10 centimeters from the top is done using the smaller hook, which is 4 millimeters. And there are 15 rounds to that 10 centimeters. And the remaining 7 centimeters of the collar is done using a bigger hook, which is 4.5 millimeters. And there are 10 rounds there. So a total of 25 rounds for the collar. Rounds 1 to 15 using 4 millimeters hook, and round 16 to 25 using 4.5 millimeters hook. And again, you don't need to match the exact number of rounds that I have. What you have to do is simply repeat the round 3 pattern for the collar as shown earlier for however many rounds you need until you reach 10 centimeters using your smaller hook first, since we are using 2 hook sizes, right? And after reaching 10 centimeters, switch to the bigger hook size and just continue repeating the same pattern for a few more rounds until you reach an additional 7 centimeters for a total of 17 centimeters. This measurement for the height of the collar is also just a guide, okay? So this collar reaches up to the chin and can be folded outwards or inwards. And you may, of course, make your collar taller or shorter than 17 centimeters. Simply adjust the number of rounds based on your preferred collar height. Okay, so let's continue making more rounds until we reach the height we want for the collar. Again, the pattern for each round is just a repeat of round 3, which is alternating back post and front post double crochets all the way around. Okay, so let's keep going and I'll see you later. I'm back again to show you my progress. I'm done with round 15 and let's measure this. It's a little less than 10 centimeters, but it's fine. It doesn't have to be exactly 10 centimeters. So if you are using a thinner yarn or smaller hook and you need more than 15 rounds to reach 10 centimeters, that's okay too. Just keep adding more rounds. And if you are using a bulkier yarn with a bigger hook, you probably need to make less than 15 rounds to reach 10 centimeters, and that's okay as well. Anyway, this part right here is the one that gets folded out like this or folded in. That's why I wanted to have 10 centimeters here before switching to the bigger hook. If you don't want a tall collar and this folding design, you may want to maybe crochet a fewer rounds, maybe just up to 5 centimeters instead of 10 centimeters before switching to the bigger hook. Again, it's up to you. Anyway, now I have a collar of 10 centimeters in height. Again, 15 rounds for me using the 4 millimeters hook. And now I'm going to switch to 4.5 millimeters hook and continue on with the same pattern. This is now round 16. So I'll continue working until I reach an additional 7 centimeters approximately. That's 10 rounds for me. That means I'll keep working until I finish round 25 and I'll see you then. I'm back and almost done with round 25. Okay, so remember I did 15 rounds using the smaller hook, which is 4 millimeters. And then I did another 10 rounds using this 4.5 millimeters crochet hook. And my last round for the collar is this round, which is round 25. Okay, so right now, let's measure the height of the collar. Okay, so it's just a little over 16 centimeters, and that's okay. It's still within the range of the usual collar height I get when making this poncho design. Anyway, again, this is the top, and we usually do this for a turtleneck design, right? That's why I made the collar this tall, so I can fold this top part right here, like this. Okay, but of course, if you don't want that, you don't have to make the collar as tall as this, maybe just up to here. So again, it's up to you. Anyway, we already talked about that earlier. Okay, so again, we are working from the top to the bottom. So this is the top, then going down to the bottom. So this is now the bottom of the collar. Okay, let's continue. But first, let me show you this part right here. So remember, for the last 6 or 7 centimeters, we already switched to the bigger hook size right here. So on those last 10 rounds of the collar, I was already using the 4.5 millimeters hook. Okay, let's try to open this a little. We can see that there's a little difference in size between the top and the bottom part of the collar. It's now wider on this part, which is the bottom, as you can see. And that's what we wanted to happen. That's why we used a bigger hook on the last few rounds here. Okay, so we usually make some well-placed stitch increases to make our crochet projects grow bigger, but I think this trick of just using a bigger hook is much easier. It's the lazy way, I guess, but it works fine for this simple design. Anyway, we will not be switching hooks anymore. We will continue using this bigger hook until the end of this project. Okay, let's continue. I only have a few stitches left on this round. So this is the last round of the ribbing pattern for the collar, and for me it's round 25, and of course yours might be different. Okay, let's keep going. So we have here front post double crochet, so we will be making back post double crochet next. Okay, and then again front post double crochet into that next one. Okay, and we have our last 2 stitches for the round, and those will be different. Okay, so for this second to the last stitch, instead of making a back post double crochet, we will be making a back post half double crochet stitch. Okay, so we yarn over, insert our hook here, and just do the same way we always do a back post stitch. Okay, we grab yarn and pull up a loop, grab yarn and pull through all loops on the hook. Okay, and that's a back post half double crochet. And on the last stitch right here, instead of making a front post double crochet, we will be making a front post single crochet. So there, front post single crochet. And now let's move on to the next round. This is the round after the ribbing pattern for the collar. And again, for me, this is round 26. But let's just call it the single crochet round. Again, you do this after your last round of the ribbing pattern. First, we will make a slip stitch into that first stitch of the previous round. Okay, so slip stitch right there. And then we chain 1. Okay, and into that same stitch where we did the slip stitch, we will make a single crochet. Okay, so single crochet, and this is the first stitch for our single crochet round. So single crochet into that next stitch as well. Okay, so this round is just 1 single crochet into each stitch around. I suggest to work on this round with less tension, just a little relaxed, so the stitches are not too tight. Okay, it's again just 1 single crochet into each stitch around. I'm just gonna go back here to put a stitch marker so I don't lose that first stitch. Okay, so let's keep working, and I'll see you when we only have a few stitches left on this single crochet round. I'm back with only a few stitches remaining for this single crochet round. So let's continue. So a single crochet into that next stitch, and this is the last stitch of the previous round. So we make a single crochet into that stitch. And to end the round, let's remove the stitch marker, and we will make a slip stitch into that first stitch of the round. So that single crochet right there, so slip stitch, and this is the end of our single crochet round. We will now begin the next round, which is the first round for the granny stitches part of the poncho. We chain 2, and that counts as a double crochet. Okay, and we will make another double crochet into that same stitch. Okay, that first stitch of the previous round where we also did the slip stitch. Okay, so double crochet, and then we will make another double crochet into that same stitch. Okay, so double crochet. So including the 2 chains that we did in the beginning, that counts as a double crochet, we now have 3 double crochets. And then we chain 2, and we will make another set of 3 double crochets into that same stitch still. Okay, so 1 double crochet, another double crochet, and this is the third one. Okay, so into that same stitch we now have 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 double crochets. This poncho has 2 corners, by the way, and this is now the first corner for this round. Let's make a few granny stitches first, and we will find out in a bit where the second corner is going to be. So we chain 1 and we skip 2 stitches. And by the way, sometimes this stitch right here gets hidden, so let's move this aside for a bit so we can see it clearly. Okay, so 1, 2, skip those 2 stitches, and into that next stitch we will make a set of 3 double crochets. Okay, so this is the second, second double crochet, and this is the third one. Okay, so right there. So 3 double crochets into that same stitch. Okay, right, and then we chain 1, and then we skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and into that next stitch right there we will make 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we chain 1 again. So this is the pattern that we will be repeating until we reach the second corner for this round. Okay, so let's see where the second corner will be. So remember, we did a multiple of 6 for our foundation chain, and the reason for that is this. As mentioned, we have 2 corners for this poncho, so for each half we need multiple of 3 stitches, as you can see with our granny stitch, right? We make a set of 3 double crochets in 1 stitch, then we skip 2, and again we make 3 double crochets in the next stitch, and we skip 2. So multiple of 3 stitches for the granny stitch. We did multiple of 6 for the foundation chain, so we are sure that we would have an even number of stitches, so we could divide the total number of stitches by 2. So we could make 2 halves for our 2 corner poncho. Anyway, I'm just explaining it a bit, but no need to analyze it. As long as you have a multiple of 6 stitches, you won't have a problem. And for me, I have 96 stitches, so half of that is 48. I'm just gonna count 48 stitches. Okay, so this is the first stitch. Let's count.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, and 48.
So this next stitch is the 49th stitch, and that is the start of the second half. So that's where the second corner is going to be. Let's put a marker on that. And that's how you find the spot for the second corner. Easy enough, right? So whatever total number of stitches you have for your foundation chain, just divide it by 2. Okay, so for example, you only have 90 stitches. That's 45 stitches for each half. Of course, your first corner will be on stitch number 1, which is actually the same for everybody. And then your second corner will be on the start of your second half, which is stitch number 46. I think that's clear enough, so let's continue with our granny stitches until we reach that second corner. Okay, so after that chain 1, we skip 2 stitches, then we make another set of 3 double crochets into that next stitch. So that's 2, 3, and we chain 1, and we skip again 2 stitches, and on the next one 3 double crochets in the same stitch. Okay, and then we chain 1 again. So we will continue with this pattern. Again, it's a simple one. Just skip 2 stitches and into the next stitch, 3 double crochets into that same stitch, then chain 1 again, skip 2 stitches, then 3 double crochets into the next stitch. So we'll continue with this pattern until we reach this stitch right here with the marker for the second corner. So let's keep going and I'll see you there. Okay, we have a few stitches left before the corner. So we already did double crochets here and a chain. And now we skip 2 stitches. And into that next one, we make 3 double crochets in the same stitch. Okay. So that's 3 double crochets. And then we chain 1. And we now have 2 stitches left before the corner. Okay, but first, let me show you what we have so far. So we are done with the first half of our granny stitch pattern for this round. And now we will be working on the second half, starting with this corner right here. Okay, so let's remove the marker. We skip 2 stitches, so those are the 2 stitches before the corner. And then we will make 1 set of 3 double crochets into this stitch. Okay, so that's 1, 2, and 3. And then we chain 2. And into that same stitch, we will make another set of 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that's the second corner done. After that, we chain 1, and we will continue this granny stitch pattern on the second half of this round. So same pattern here, okay? After chain 1, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and into that next stitch, we will make 3 double crochets. That's 2. Oops, sorry. Okay, so 3. And then we chain 1 after that. And again, skip 2 stitches, and then into that next stitch, 3 double crochets. Okay, so 3 double crochets into that same stitch. Okay, and then chain 1. Again, skip 2 stitches and 3 double crochets into that next stitch. And 3. So we will keep repeating this pattern until we reach the end of this round, and I'll see you there. And we are almost at the end of our first round for the granny stitch pattern. Okay, so we just did here 3 double crochets in that same stitch and a chain. So next we skip 2 stitches, and into this next stitch we make 3 double crochets. So that's 2, 3. Okay, and there should be 2 stitches left here before the corner. right there. Okay, and then we chain 1, and to end this round we will slip stitch into the first stitch of the round, and that's the 2 chain stitch here. That counts as a double crochet. Okay, so slip stitch on top of that. Okay, so find the second chain. Okay, and slip stitch into that second chain right there. Okay, and that is the end of our round 1 of the granny stitch pattern. Okay, but before we begin the next round, let's double check the number of stitches. Okay, so we should have equal number of stitches on both sides. So we have these 2 corners, right? So we will just count the number of these 3 double crochet sets between the corners. Let's start with the first half. So this is the first corner. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so on our first half, we have 15 of these 3 double crochet sets. And now onto the second half. Okay, so again, here are the 2 corners, and we should have 15 of these 3 double crochet sets between these 2 corners. Okay, so let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so we have the same number of 3 double crochet sets on both sides. And now we can move on to the next round, which is the round 2 of our granny stitch pattern, or the main part of the poncho. Okay, and this second round is the repeat pattern for the rest of the poncho. And then we will just make a simple border later. So we will keep repeating this round 2 of the granny stitch pattern until we reach the size we want for the poncho. And take note that every time we start a new round, we will do this. Okay, so we slip stitch into each stitch until we reach this 2 chain space between these 2 sets of 3 double crochets. Okay, so we already did a slip stitch into that first stitch right there. So we will slip stitch into that next one. Okay, so slip stitch on top of this double crochet right there. Okay, and then slip stitch into that next double crochet. Okay, and slip stitch into the 2 chain space. So again, we will do that in the beginning of every round so that we will be able to reach that 2 chain space right there, where we will begin another corner, another of these 2 sets of 3 double crochets. So chain 2, and again, this counts as our first double crochet of the set, like this one. Okay, so another double crochet into that 2 chain space, and another one. So this is our first 3 double crochet set for the corner. So again, this chain 2 here is our first stitch, and that counts as a double crochet. Okay, chain 2, and into that same 2 chain space we make another set of 3 double crochets. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. And that's the first corner done. So into that 2 chain space from the previous round, we did 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. And again, this is how we always start each round. So we slip stitch into every stitch until we reach that 2 chain space, so we can make a corner like this one. Let's continue. Chain 1, and we will make a set of 3 double crochets into this chain 1 space right here. Okay, so 3 double crochets into this chain 1 space. 2, and 3. And after that, we chain 1, and we will work into the next chain 1 space. 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space as well. So that is the pattern for our granny stitch. Okay, so chain 1 after those 3 double crochets, and then we will be working into the next chain 1 space from the previous round. Again, 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space. As you can see, we are now just working into those chain 1 spaces. So we are working our sets of 3 double crochets into those chain 1 spaces. And we will continue doing this pattern until we reach this corner right here. So let's keep working and I'll see you there. We are now close to the corner. Let's chain 1, and then we will make a set of 3 double crochets into this last chain 1 space before the corner. Okay, so 3 double crochets. Then we will work the corner next. So chain 1, and into that corner 2 chain space from the previous round, we will make 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and another set of 3 double crochets. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, and then chain 2, and into that same 2 chain space, we make 3 more double crochets. That's 1, 2, and 3 double crochets. Okay, so that's the second corner done. So for every round, this is how we always work the second corner. Into the corner 2 chain space of the previous round, we work 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So let's continue. Chain 1, and into that chain 1 space from the previous round, right there, we work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then we chain 1. And into that next chain 1 space, we also work another set of 3 double crochets. So that's 2, 3, and then we chain 1. And of course, 3 double crochets also into the next chain 1 space. So again, this is the pattern for the granny stitch, and we will keep repeating this until we reach the end of this round. So let's keep working and I'll see you there. We are about to make our last set of 3 double crochets for this round. Here we just did 3 double crochets and a chain, and then we will make 3 double crochets into this last chain 1 space before the corner. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3. So that's the last set of 3 double crochets for this round, and then we chain 1. And to close the round, we will slip stitch on top of the first stitch of the round, and that's the 2 chain stitch here that counts as a double crochet. So find the second chain and slip stitch into that second chain to close this round. So slip stitch right there. And this is the end of round 2 of the granny stitch pattern. And now we are ready to start round 3. So for round 3, we will just be repeating round 2 of the granny stitch pattern. Okay, so from this round moving forward up to however many rounds we need to make to reach our preferred size for the poncho, we will just be repeating the granny stitch round 2 pattern. But first, let me show you how to start each round one more time. So again, we need to reach that 2 chain space right there by slip stitching into each stitch. So slip stitch into that double crochet and slip stitch also into that next double crochet, and then slip stitch into that 2 chain space. And now we are ready to start the corner. First, we chain 2, and again this counts as a double crochet. And we make another double crochet and another double crochet. Okay, so now we have 3 double crochets, and this is the first set of 3 double crochets for the corner. And then we chain 2, and into that same 2 chain space we make 3 more double crochets. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so again that's the first corner done. Anyway, again, this is just a repeat of the granny stitch round 2 pattern, so if ever you get confused, you can always go back to that part of the tutorial. So let's all continue working more rounds until we get to the size we want for the poncho. Then I'll see you later to do our simple border. Alright, I'll see you then. I'm back and I'm ready to start the border. But first, let me show you what I have so far. So this is round 34 of the granny stitch pattern. So with my yarn, I was able to make up to 34 rounds of the granny stitch pattern. The sides of this poncho go down to my elbow, I think a little below my elbow, and that's a good size for me, although I actually already finished round 35, but then I had to frog the whole round because I noticed a little too late that I don't have enough yarn left for the border, so I had to frog the whole round. That's why my yarn looks like this right now. Alright, let's make the border. First, let's finish this last round of our granny stitch pattern. We just did this last set of 3 double crochets here, so we chain 1. And like what we always do to close the round, slip stitch into that first stitch of the round, and that's the 2 chain stitch here that counts as a double crochet. So slip stitch into that second chain to close the round. And that is the end of the last round of our granny stitch pattern. And then we will start the border right away. We don't have to slip stitch into each of these stitches to reach that 2 chain space. Okay, we will start the border right here. So after that slip stitch, we chain 1, and then into that next stitch, that double crochet right there, we make a slip stitch into that, and then chain 1. And again into that next stitch, slip stitch, and then chain 1. So that is our pattern for the border. Very simple, right? And it will look like that. So into every stitch, we just have to slip stitch and then make a chain. So let's do that into this corner. I know we have 2 chains here, but we will treat this corner as only 1 stitch. So just make a slip stitch, then chain 1. And then we will move on right away into this next stitch. So slip stitch into that double crochet. Okay. And then chain 1. Okay. And then continue. So slip stitch into the next stitch and then chain 1, and same thing, slip stitch into that next stitch and then chain 1. So again, this is the pattern for the border. Slip stitch and chain 1 into every stitch. And when you reach the 2 chain space on the second corner later, just treat that as a single stitch as well. Just do the same thing we did with the first corner 2 chain space. Slip stitch and chain 1, which is also the same with every chain 1 space like this. So same thing with every stitch around. Okay? Again, just slip stitch and chain 1 into each stitch around. So let's continue working this pattern until the end of this border round, and I'll see you there. We are almost done with our border round. We just did a slip stitch into that chain 1 space. So chain 1 after that. So only a few stitches left. So continue with our pattern. Okay, so slip stitch and then chain 1 and then slip stitch and then chain 1. Okay, and this is how the border looks like. I think with the 2 ponchos I did crab stitch for the border, but I like this one better. I think it's nice and simple. So let's make a slip stitch into that chain 1 space and then make a chain. So this is where we started the border, right? That's the first slip stitch. And this is the end of the border. I'm just gonna pull the yarn up, and we need to leave a tail long enough for weaving in. So cut the yarn and pull it out from there. And then I'm just going to hide the tail. So I want to make it look like this last chain is connected to that first slip stitch of the border. So I'll try my best to make it look like there's no break on the border on this part. Okay, so I'll just weave in this tail. I'll try to hide it carefully while making sure that it won't unravel. And you probably have a different way of weaving in the tail, so just do as you please. I'll just finish this and be back in a bit. I'm done with this end tail now, and I think it's secure enough, so it's time to move on to the beginning tail. This is what I like about making a big project without multiple parts, just one big piece, because there are only 2 tails to weave in, the beginning tail and the end tail, right? And here is the beginning tail. I'll just weave this in and secure it properly to finish this poncho. I'll do that off camera and I'll be back. This poncho is now done, and this is also the end of this video. Again, this is the KASTIEL poncho. I hope you like it and find the tutorial easy to follow. So if you have any questions, suggestions, or clarifications, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and click on the bell button so you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. See you soon! Bye!
Like if you like this video, subscribe if you love it, share if you care. Thank you for watching. Bye!